How do we know which level of muraqabah we are at?
Yes. Here we only introduced the concept of muraqabah, and very quickly we mentioned few levels. Of course, those levels are not difficult to understand. But inshallah, we will have a more expanded discussion about muraqabah and the methods of muraqabah, at some methods of muraqabah, and then inshallah it becomes even clearer. What was number two?
Thank you. The next one is, does al-insan al-kamil become the manifestation of all attributes of God?
Yes. Insan kamil has to manifest both attributes of beauty and glory, Jamal and Jalal. Shouldn't just reflect some of the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As much as a person can, as much as a finite being can, he would reflect all the perfections that Allah has, but in his own capacity. So Allah has knowledge, Allah has power, Allah has will, Allah has, any quality, wisdom, etc. He should be comprehensive in reflecting Allah and not just some part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
The stories we read about Nomi Arfani, for example, are these in being awake or sleeping or imagination, for example? Even if other people are around you, you would still be able to see this dimension?
Yes. No, it can be when one is awake.
If everyone apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perishes, don't all human beings remain? We are all eternal. We are just transformed from one form to another. So how does other than God get perished?
So everything which is facing God remains. Our soul is facing God. Our soul is immaterial. Our soul is not worldly. Therefore it remains. When we say whatever kullu ma alayha fan, everything is on this planet, on this earth, which means everything in dunya, even if it is in another planet. But anything worldly would perish. But anything which is malakuti, rawhani, spiritual would remain.
Whether it's positive or negative?
Yeah, even bad souls will remain.
And then sins, for example, versus good deeds?
Yeah. Anything which is immaterial then remains, but they would not be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like every human being will be present before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but some would be pleasing, some would be displeasing, some would enjoy this presence, some would suffer a lot. They feel terrible. A criminal feels terrible in front of the judge, but they will not perish, they will not disappear.
So then how can we say that they're facing God in a positive sense? And are they like a shadow?
Because they have some level of presence in front of God. They have liqa'ullah, but not in a way which is necessarily good. Ya ayyuhan nas innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqih. Every human being would have liqa'ullah. But this liqa'ullah is different from liqa'ullah of good people. This is possible to be good, possible to bad, be pleasure, be punishment, be pain. But Allama Tabatabai says that this is called liqa because hijab is removed. There is no hijab on the day of judgment.
How do we practically do muraqabah?
Inshallah, in future we talk about this.
Thank you.
But for the time being, as I said, at least very simple. First, we make sure that we don't commit any sin. We don't disobey Allah. And second, try as much as possible to do things for the sake of Allah, even mustahabbat, mubahat, ordinary things, as much as possible. So even if you are making food, cooking, washing, driving, working, try to paint it with a godly color at least. So even if you are not able to totally do it for the sake of Allah, at least try to connect it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somehow, so that little by little Allah would be present in every moment of your life.
Thank you so much. This ties well with the next question, which is after saying Salaam Alaikum and
Alaikum salam.
Very much for the previous beneficial lectures. It was mentioned that last week, it's important. You have the example of looking at something for the sake of Allah, as you were just talking about right now, looking at a flower as a manifestation of the beauty of God. And this look will remain when someone does that. Is it possible to expand on this point for further understanding? Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. If you do it for the sake of Allah, this would remain. So you will never lose anything, even a one kind, for example, look that you had at someone for the sake of Allah. This is saved for you. This is not going to be wasted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does the recitation of the Quran in Salat al-Layl, should it be loud or silent? Yes, in light of, other people in the house and things like this.
If it's going to, draw attention, disturb others, or not disturb even, but drawing attention to you, you should, try to avoid that. And do it in the way that you can understand, you can reflect, you can feel close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes reciting or reading Salatul loudly, sometimes it is good, but sometimes it's giving the impression that you are talking to someone who is far. So I think it's good that we have, some of our prayers loud, some of them, we recite it not loud. And in Salatul Layl in particular, I think in order to keep it very quiet, very confidential, and also to feel very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe it's good to, say it in a suitable way.
If a person considers their entertainment or hobby time to be a spiritual or meditative experience, how can they evaluate that and examine it and see if indeed this is the case, or they're just making excuses to justify their time in doing this?
Inshallah, when we talk about muraqabah more, we can talk about it. But as I said, right for this time, even if it is not really inspired by your love for God, at least connect it. At least paint the surface of it. This is good, that you try to remember God first of all, and you try somehow to connect things to God in an honest way, not in a dishonest way, So that, for example, okay, I am enjoying, for example, a sport. But let me say also that I want to get energy so that I can, serve better. I do some zikr, for example, over there. When the time of salat comes, I say my salat. I don't keep, for example, playing and delaying my salat. So try to somehow connect it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then little by little, this can increase. And then love for Allah becomes your motive and your main reason for doing everything. But this cannot happen without exercise, without training, without increasing this over time.
We talked about the recitation of Surah Sad in Salat al-Layl.
In Laylatul Jum'ah.
in Laylat al-Jum'ah, and also it was mentioned in the Wutayra or Salat al-Witr of Salat al-Layl. Could you clarify more about this? Is it in the Wutayra which after Salat al-Isha, or is it Salat al-Witr at the end of Salat al-Layl?
The hadith that we have from Imam Baqir alayhi salam is Man qara'a surata Sad fi laylat al-Jum'ah. This is the hadith. But what was in the book was بِتَجْرُبَ ثابت شده است. Means it has been experienced and proved by experience that reciting Surat Sad in Salat Wutayre of night of Jum'ah. So this was experienced, and then he says the khususiyya, the characteristics of this surah can be understood from a hadith about its reward. So hadith is about, because this is the hadith that I found relevant. Hadith is not mentioned in the book. Hadith of Imam Baqir is about qira'at Surah Sad in Laylatul Jum'ah. It doesn't say Wutayra. But he says بِتَجْرُبَ ثابت شده است. So it means people have experienced that when they recited this in Salat Wutayra, then it has helped them. And maybe he wants to say this is also something that is in line with the hadith about recitation of Surat Sad.
Thank you. So this is the salah at the end of Salat al-Layl after Salat al-Shafa?
No, Wutayra is after Isha.
Okay. And is it during the salah or?
Yes.